Hey, what's going on, gang? Nate on the Stone here. Welcome back to my channel. We are now less than 1 week from the presidential election, and 50 million plus people have already voted, either in person or via mail, which actually should only exist for dire situations, but that's another rant for another day and another time. What is actually more interesting to me, and more apropos, seeing that this coming Saturday is Halloween, is that there is going to be a supernatural element to this presidential election, at least according to a bunch of witches. Headline: thousands of witches plotting to cast a binding spell on Donald Trump on Halloween so he loses to Biden on election day. And no, that is not a typo or a headline from The Onion or the Babylon Bee. This, unfortunately, is actually from the UK Sun. According to social media, the Mystic Women are set to plot multiple binding events to attack the president on Halloween, in the biggest spiritual attack to date. Taking their efforts online, the witches have been using the hashtags BindTrump and magicalresistence to join their forces to create a blue wave spell October 31st and on November 2nd. And these people actually genuinely believe this. Twitter user Valkyrie's Vault, hashtag BindTrump and all who abet him, tweeted out on October 14th, quote, "Ready to hashtag bind Trump like he's never been bound before. Buckle up, you effing orange buttercup." This was accompanied by a picture of what looked like a makeshift altar, magical repository, and Etsy candle store. I'd actually show you the picture, but unfortunately when I queried about what exactly was in the picture, she blocked me on Twitter. And it was such a promising beginning to a relationship. That same day, Twitter user 5track tweeted out this poster, which says, quote, "In the name of justice and liberty and love and equality and peace, bind them in chains, bind their tongues, bind their works, bind their wickedness." And in case you've made it this far into the video and have been wondering what in the blueberry is a binding anyway, according to Wikipedia, witches really need to cast imagination-boosting spells on themselves, don't they? A negative binding is, quote, one that takes something away, usually someone's ability to do something. Now, there is plenty that could be made fun of in these specific tweets and just in this idea in general. The one that smacks you upside the head as you begin browsing through these hashtags is that these modern-day witches really don't seem to have a clue what exactly witchcraft entails. For example, look at the hashtags that Twitter user Valkyrie's Vault used and you'll see things like hashtag the Morrigan, hashtag voodoo resistance. On the one hand, voodoo is a religious/magical system that was formed through the syncretism of Catholicism and Native African beliefs, and which actually still thrives today in places like Haiti, the Dominican Republic, Cuba, and even New Orleans. On the other hand, the Morrigan is a goddess from Irish mythology. The two don't quite fit together, unless of course you're just throwing bits and pieces from different religions and different systems together because, ooh, it's all magical, mysterious, and spooky. There's also the rather embarrassing fact that these people obviously couldn't even hex a paper bag. VV also cast a hex tweet against Amy Coney Barrett on October 14th, which did such a great bang-up job that the Senate actually did confirm her to the Supreme Court 52-48. Congratulations to her and her family, by the way. But these witches still think that they have this great reservoir of magical power. The UK Sun story said that some of these witches felt especially empowered after learning that Trump had contracted China's coronavirus. Because you see, the reason why he contracted the virus is because they cast a spell specifically so that he would contract it. Which really begs the question when you sit down and think about it, if you have the ability to cast spells against your enemy, why would you cast a spell so that he would contract a virus that has spread like wildfire around the world and which thousands and thousands of people have contracted but still survived? If you actually have this power, why not cast a spell so that Trump would contract AIDS or the bubonic plague, classic, or cast another spell so that he would choke to death while giving a presser, or drown in his bed while he was asleep, or cast a spell so that the wings of Air Force One would just fall off like a Looney Tunes cartoon when he was in it? Rule of thumb, if you can only cast a spell so that your enemies contract a virus that millions of other people are already getting, you're a pretty puny witch. We could make fun of all these inconsistencies, point them out, have some laughs, and leave it at that. But we're not going to, gang, because there is actually something deeper in all of this, as you knew there would be. And what's deeper here is the fact that these people who claim to be witches are not actually witches. I talked about the contradiction between voodoo and Irish mythology just a moment ago in relation to Valkyrie's Vault's tweet. But that is just the tip of the iceberg. Take a look, for example, at this poster that I found on Pinterest, where different goddesses from different mythologies are paired with different stones, crystals, all for the express purpose of awakening your inner goddess, which also probably can only be awakened with a generous donation or one-time fee of $29.99, but I'm just guessing at that point. The real lesson here is that there is no rhyme or reason why these particular stones have been paired with these particular goddesses. Look, as just one example, at the ancient Egyptian god Isis, who was paired here in this poster with lapis lazuli. Isis was not a goddess of the sky, that actually would have been her mythological mother, the goddess Nut, nor was she a god of the Nile River, that would have been the god Hapi. She was, in fact, a powerful protectress who was the primary deity of magic in ancient Egyptian religion and mythology. And neither one of those areas has anything primary to do with either lapis lazuli or the color blue. It is true in some accounts Isis has skin of lapis lazuli, but those same accounts say that all the deities in the Egyptian pantheon had skin of lapis lazuli. They also had bones of gold and hair of silver. Lapis was simply chosen at random to be paired with Isis, and if you've taken a close look at this poster, you're going to see that all of the goddesses that make it up are from a scattering of different mythologies. This is less a system than just a random gathering of different mythological figures and pairing them with different random stones. In fact, there is no system whatsoever. Back in 2018, W Magazine published a story which was all about how you today could become a witch. Author Stephanie Eckhart out and out said that there were multiple paths to witchhood, which included paganism, Wiccanism, Brujery, and eclecticism, which was basically just throwing a bunch of different elements from different traditions, different religions together, and calling it good. Even more revealing, in that same article at one point, Eckhart actually wrote, quote unquote, "Praise the deity of your choice," that we live in the age of Google, where arcane secrets held in tombs like drawing down the moon, Wicca for beginners, and what witches do are just a mouse click away. In other words, all the old mythologies are true, all the old magical systems are true, all the old gods and goddesses are true. All you have to do is pick the one you want, like you would pick a coffee at Starbucks or a car on a lot. It's all your own preference. The gods, they're basically just pieces of jewelry out in a display case for your buying approval. Now, not only would this be an incredibly stupid and naive way to think about and act towards the gods, assuming that they were real, I swear, have these people never actually read a single Greek mythology? Not only is it a gross act of cultural appropriation, but it is also contrary to how magic was understood to work across human history until like 5 seconds ago. Take this book that I bought in a used bookstore in Chicago back in the day, The Magus or Celestial Intelligence, written by Francis Barrett and first published in 1801. It was and is exactly what it promised to be, a complete occult philosophy. Now think of this book, Francis Barrett, magic, the occult, whatever you will. But this book was not for the person who just wanted to choose a patron goddess, a stone, and light some candles and tell Trump to F off. Take this as just one example of the making of the crystal and the form of preparation for a vision, in which Barrett writes in part, quote, "Procure of a lapidary good clear pellicued crystal of the bigness of a small orange, i.e. about 1.5 inches in diameter. Let it be globular or round each way alike. Then, When you have got this crystal fair and clear, without any clouds or specks, get a small plate of pure gold to encompass the crystal round 1/2. Let this be fitted on an ivory or ebony pedestal, as you may see more fully described in the drawing. See plate figure 1. Let there be engraved a circle around the crystal, with these characters around inside the circle next to the crystal: Star of David, pentagram, and Templar cross. Afterward, the name Tetragrammaton. On the other side of the plate, let there be engraven Michael, Gabriel, Uriel, Raphael, which are the 4 principal angels ruling over the sun, moon, Venus, and Mercury. But on the table on which the crystal stands, the following names, characters, etc. must be drawn in order. First, the names of the 7 planets and angels ruling them, with their seals or characters. The names of the 4 kings of the 4 corners of the earth. Let them be all written within a double circle, with a triangle on a table, on which place the crystal on its pedestal. This being done, thy table is complete, and for the calling of the spirits, after which thou shalt proceed to experiment thus. You get the idea. There were specific things that you had to know, and there were specific things that you had to do. There was more to the gig of being a witch than simply appropriating a mythology, making the gods conform to your 21st century standards, and then shouting F Trump to the 4 winds in your circle of lit candles. Today, in fact, witchcraft has become just another avenue for narcissistic people to stand out from the crowd without having to actually learn anything new or change anything about themselves. The same thing actually can be said about Satanism. The hallowed pages of the Huffington Post, for example, 40-something-year-old attorney and mother Jamie Smith announced to the world that Ruth Bader Ginsburg's death made her become a Satanist. But now, if you're worried that this means that she actually went out on a moonless night into a circle of gravestones and signed a contract in blood and basically gave her soul to the devil, don't worry, forget about it. She didn't have to do any such thing. Satanists don't even have to believe in Satan anymore. Members of the Satanic Temple do not believe in the supernatural or superstition. In the same way that some Unitarians and some Jews do not believe in God, Satanic Temple members do not worship Satan, and most are atheists. They are not affiliated in any way with the Church of Satan. Instead, the Satanic Temple uses the devil as a symbol of rebellion. Just like other faiths, the Satanic Temple has a code that their members believe in deeply and use to guide their lives. These 7 fundamental tenets include that, quote, one should strive to act with compassion and empathy toward all creatures in accordance with reason. That the struggle for justice is an ongoing and necessary pursuit that should prevail over laws and institutions, and that one's body is inviolable, subject to one's own will alone. Reading through the 7 tenets, I was struck by how closely they align with the unwritten code I had used to try to guide my own life for several years. I realized happily that these were my people, and that I had been a Satanist for several years without even knowing it. Smith goes on to say repeatedly that it was the specific fear that her daughters would not be able to control their own bodies, i.e. get abortions, that actually made her join the Satanic Temple officially. In other words, Satanism today is a way for people to rebel without actually having to rebel from anything that the dominant culture tells us to think and believe. Furthermore, it gives people the coveted title of bad boy and or girl without actually having to change anything about ourselves. You don't even have to sacrifice goats. Now, you might be thinking that this is actually all really, really good news. I mean, don't we want Satanists to not actually believe in Satan, not actually worship the devil himself? Don't we want witches today just to be dissatisfied leftists who wanted to spice up their Facebook profiles? The thing is, though, it's not better. If these people were genuine witches and genuine Satanists, black masses, sacrifices to Baphomet, the whole 9 yards, it would actually be better. Why? Because it would show that these people actually believed in something outside of themselves. People like Valkyrie's Vault and Jamie Smith, they don't believe in anything outside of themselves and outside of the narrow confines of what the leftist ideology tells them to believe and to think. They think of themselves as rebels, fierce, skeptical, commonsensical thinkers, when in fact all that they are sheep. Furthermore, their understanding of the occult only goes as far as what the reboot of Sabrina the Teenage Witch and The Craft told them. Their reality is one suffocating bubble. Real witchcraft, real Satanism, at the very, very least, would have expanded their minds by showing them, revealing to them even, that there is more to life than just the four walls of materialism and what the leftist ideology tells them. And that's actually needed because an expanded mind beyond the left's narrative is the only thing that is actually going to free people from the left's narrative. You need an expanded mind, an expanded understanding, and most importantly, an expanded imagination to be able to see, recognize, accept, and embrace the permanent things, the transcendentals, history, metaphysics, all the things that not only are supposed to make up a genuine conservatism, but which also are the actual things that make life worth living in the first place. And ironically enough, an expanded imagination is the only thing that can actually lead people out of witchcraft and out of Satanism. The paradox, to paraphrase G.K. Chesterton, is that if these people were actually genuine witches and genuine Satanists, then there would actually be a better chance for them of becoming conservative and Christians. And as we stand here near the precipice of 2020, and we look back at all the things that have happened this year, genuine conservatism, genuine Christianity, those are the things that we need most of all. As always, what say you? What are your thoughts about the magical resistance in buying Trump, but also about the idea that an expanded imagination is the only thing that is going to save people from the left and ultimately civilization itself? Let me know your thoughts, ideas, and opinions in the comment box below. Well, that about wraps up everything for right now, gang. Before you go, if you could give the video a like, share it with your friends on social media, I would be very much obliged. And if you like videos about culture, politics, religion from a unique POV, subscribe, ring the bell for notifications so that you will always know when I post new videos like this every week. As always, thank you for watching, for giving me a bit of your day. Thank you to everyone who has already subscribed. I appreciate each and every one of you. So until next time, gang, stay safe, stay free, by daring to read, think, speak, and write. Oh, and have a happy Halloween. I'll see you next time. Ciao.
2 more days to Halloween, Halloween, Halloween. 2 more days to Halloween, silver shamrock. 2 more days to Halloween, Halloween, Halloween. 2 more days to Halloween, silver shamrock.